It was a Saturday night, and Alex had some of his friends and co-workers at his place for a little shindig. Nothing crazy, just some friends getting together over the weekend to let some steam off. He and his colleagues work at an accounting firm, so it's not the most exciting job there is, but it pays the bills. While you may assume his job is relatively safe, you may be surprised by how much he and his friends complain about their achy backs and necks. In fact, most of them take some sort of pain reliever to help deal with the discomfort. And no, they're not old. They're all in their 20s and 30s and are relatively healthy, so what's the problem? Sitting. As accountants, they are sitting all day long. Sure, it's nice to think they sit up nice and tall, but let's be real. They may be able to do that for the first 10 minutes, and then it's back to lazy posture, slumped over with their head hanging down. The party was a great time and eventually wound down. Later that evening, after they all went home, everyone posted picture into their group chat to share memories of the awesome night. And that's when reality hit Alex hard. Have you ever seen a picture of yourself and thought, wow, do I really look like that? Well, that's what Alex thought. Even though he's relatively tall at 6 feet tall, his shoulders were hunched over with his head hanging low, making him look a couple of inches shorter. He's not an expert, but you didn't need to be to see that his posture was bad, real bad. Unfortunately, he didn't live in a city that had gyms on every corner. The closest gym was about 45 minutes away, and there's absolutely no way he could make that work with how busy his schedule is. Is he doomed to have poor posture forever? Will he ever look like he's actually 6 feet tall in his pictures? Luckily, he had a computer and Wi-Fi, so he had access to all the information in the world. After a couple of hours of research, he was able to find a plethora of awesome exercises that he could perform at home. The only piece of equipment he would need are resistance bands for some of the exercises. As those are easy to get, he thought, no problem. Even better is he saw a plethora of studies that specifically used resistance band exercises to improve postural issues, so he knew that was enough. He also came across some amazing benefits he would get if he could improve his posture. However, he'll need to actually do the exercises before he can experience these benefits, so they will be saved for later in the video if he does the proper training. Alex saw that poor posture is a result of your spine holding your back, shoulders, and neck in an unnatural position out of alignment. The human body is highly adaptable and will form to its environment. This can be a good thing so long as you are training it correctly. However, when you place your body in an unnatural position, your body will eventually adapt to that. This can result in your spine being out of alignment due to tight muscles, muscle weakness, and asymmetries, all of which can cause discomfort and pain. Now, what makes matters so discerning is that poor posture is generally the result of lifestyle behaviors. Things like sitting down all day and staring down at a computer screen. Eventually, your body will adapt to these positions, as it did with Alex. So, what's considered bad posture in the first place? There are several unnatural postural positions that can contribute to poor posture, but Alex noticed 3 major issues. You may have one or all of these. The first is termed forward head posture. With good posture, a person's spine will align vertically with their spine. Now, when the head protrudes forward out of alignment, the individual is said to have a forward head posture. This condition can be so severe in some individuals that in order to look forward, they will actually need to tilt their heads up to see. Thankfully, Alex's isn't this bad. The most common cause is from a person who sits with their head constantly tilted forward, such as when looking at their phone. At the same time, weak upper back muscles are another common cause. This will be important when Alex gets to the exercises. A person who has a forward head posture can place a greater amount of pressure on the spine due to the load of the head pulling down. The most common effect of forward head posture is stiffness and pain in the neck. However, because the head is tilted forward, there are also reports of it causing balance issues and even respiratory problems. It's also one of the reasons that causes this next postural issue, forward shoulder position. When a person's shoulders roll forward, it's said that they have a forward shoulder position. The problem is, just about everybody rolls their shoulders when not thinking about it. One reason is we're always holding something in front of us, usually your phone. Another major cause is just being lazy. To relax, we sit slouched and our shoulders roll forward. This movement often becomes a habit and is repeated over and over, ending with tight chest and shoulders muscles and strained back muscles. A person who suffers from forward shoulder position can experience back pain, neck pain, and even poor blood circulation. This posture is usually a result of constantly being slumped over with rounded shoulders. When done chronically, the back and shoulders will adapt to this position. The third postural problem that Alex knew he should deal with is the anterior pelvic tilt. Anterior pelvic tilt occurs when the upper portion of the pelvis leans forward, causing the butt to stick out. A major cause of this happens to be sitting. Sitting for excessive amounts of time can weaken the glute muscles, which may even lead to atrophy or muscle wasting. Being in this weakened state, the glutes can't hold the pelvis in an aligned position, allowing them to be pulled forward. It was time that Alex fixed these issues. He did the research, and it's time to get to the exercises. To start, Alex wanted to use some stretching exercises to start loosening up all of his tight muscles. He wanted something that he could use daily and perhaps even nightly to start to fix the issues and always be on top of it. He first did a move called band shoulder dislocates. Standing straight up, he held the resistance band in both arms, keeping the band tight and hanging freely. Next, he raised his arms out in front of his body and continued until the band was going over his head. He continued until the band was now across his glutes. The most important part of this movement is for Alex to keep his arms extended as well as keeping his back nice and tall. He immediately felt these loosening up his chest muscles and shoulder joints. At the same time, they were training his upper back. Next, Alex knew he needed to stretch out his back. So he laid on the ground and performed the cobra pose. He had read this is one of the best exercises he could do to stretch and loosen the entire back. Keeping his lower body flat on the ground, he put his hands below his chest and pushed his upper body up from the ground. His entire back down to his waist was arched up. Holding this position, it gave his entire back an awesome stretch. One more for good luck, Alex thought. He wanted to perform what are called thoracic rotations. He got down on all fours and sat back on his heels. Keeping one hand on the ground, he placed the other behind his head, starting with his elbow down. Then he rotated his elbow up towards the sky, rotating his back. He held in this top position and then came back down to repeat. So now that Alex was feeling more loose, he thought it was time to get to the exercises. Alex had learned about a movement known as wall slides, which looked like a good place to start. To perform them, he leaned up against a wall with his entire back flush on the wall. Next, he brought his arms to his side with his elbows at a 90-degree angle, as if he was making a field goal hand signal. Keeping his back on the wall, he lifted his arms up above his head. He noticed that the middle of his back got really tight and the higher his arms went up. The first time that Alex attempted this exercise, he was only able to get about halfway up before his arms or back would begin to come off the wall. This indicated that Alex had tightness in his shoulders and upper back from his years of sitting slouched over. He would just need to follow this training regime consistently over time to loosen up these muscles. As he had been practicing poor posture for years, he knew he couldn't expect to fix it overnight. After his shoulders were feeling loosened up, he wanted to start to strengthen his dysfunctional muscles to fix his posture. Weak back muscles in general are a major contributor to poor posture, so Alex decided to start with some basic rows. If he has a sturdy object, Alex would have attached the resistance band to that, but he did not. No problem, he will just use his legs. He sat down on the ground with his legs fully extended. He then wrapped the resistance band around his feet and then held the two ends. Ready to go! Alex remembered to keep his chest out and shoulder blades pulled back as he pulled his elbows back, pretending as if he was trying to touch the wall behind him with his elbows. Alex remembered going through the causes of poor posture, and one of the usual suspects was the upper back muscles. Basically, Alex would need to train and strengthen these muscles to pull his shoulders back where they're supposed to be. He had consistently seen one that seemed to be a favorite, the resistance band pull-apart. The band pull-apart is a classic in the world of strength and conditioning and is often used in warm-ups and mobility sessions. The popularity of the band came from its simplicity, which Alex would learn to love. Standing up straight, he held a band in both his hands, keeping all the slack out. Next, he raised his hands to shoulder level and then pulled his arms out to his side. It was as if he was performing a reverse hug. Ooh! Alex immediately felt these in the middle of his back, rear delts, and his shoulder blades. At least he knows he's doing them right. The band pull-apart is ideal to improve shoulder mobility, increase the strength of the upper back and shoulders, and increase the stability of the scapula, more commonly known as the shoulder blades. Another popular one he had seen is the face pull. Like the band pull-apart, the face pull is very popular, and you can often see it performed in the gym. However, you'll likely see it done wrong. The only thing that rivals the effectiveness of the face pull is the extent to how often it's performed incorrectly. As it's called a face pull, this is what people do. They pull it towards their face. This makes sense, and it's how Alex probably would have performed if he had not done his research. Instead, he pulled the band towards his face until about halfway. He then externally rotated his shoulder so that he finished with his arms pulled all the way back, with his arms looking similar to a field goal. He made sure to pull back as far as he could with a full range of motion. Okay, so that's the upper body taken care of. But as Alex read on, he learned that the cause of bad posture isn't isolated to one area. The body is a machine with working parts that are all interconnected. Therefore, a weak muscle anywhere in the chain can have an effect on another part. This led him to learn he'd need to strengthen his core if he wanted to maintain that 6-foot frame. You see, Alex's core is responsible for providing his spine rigidity and plays a large part in giving him his shape. If his core is weak, it will not be able to support his spine, especially for longer periods of time. Now, when Alex hears the term core, he likely has the same idea of many recreational lifters. The core is just another term for abs, not quite. The core includes all of the muscles responsible for supporting the spine, which includes the abs. So in addition to his abs, another important muscle group he will need to strengthen is the lower back, specifically the erector spinae. The erector spinae starts at the pelvis and then runs up the back, branching out into 3 muscle columns on each side of the spine. These muscle columns run along the back and branch out towards the side to support the torso from the posterior side. One of the best ways he could train the core at home is with the plank. To perform the plank, he got on the floor resting on his forearms and his feet. He made sure that his body was fully extended and his core tight as possible. It's important he didn't let his hips sag nor keep them too high. This was relatively easy for him, so he used a narrower stance with his feet. Putting his feet together created a narrower base, resulting in more instability. Once these became easy, he performed a single-leg plank, which is performed with one of his legs lifted into the air. He could also use a variation known as a unilateral plank. These are planks performed on one arm. Supporting his body weight on one arm will cause his body to want to sag down to one side. To prevent this from occurring, he must tighten his entire core to prevent it from rotating. These are tough but will build a powerful core. With the plank done, he then flipped on his back for an awesome postural core exercise, the hollow hold. Initially seeing these, Alex thought these were easy, but after reading a bit, he learned that's not so true. To perform it, he laid down with his arms stretched out above his head. Here, he extended his legs and arms as much as possible. From here, he then lifted his arms and legs so that his body made a very wide U shape. However, he knew the most important part was that his back stayed flush on the ground. Therefore, concentrated on pushing his belly button down towards the ground to keep his entire back, especially his lower back, on the ground. And woo, he really felt that. He tried to hold as long as he could to give himself a baseline. His first time he only reached 15 seconds, but knew 60 seconds was going to be his goal. Another area that could be causing his back pain and poor posture are his glutes. Alex knew that he sat a lot, making this a prime suspect. There are some great exercises that anyone can use right now. The first one Alex wanted to try were from some video he found online that were called a glute bridge or a single-leg glute bridge. Concerning the technique, he thought these looked pretty simple to perform. However, looking at the faces of the people performing them in the video, they looked pretty tough. He thought he might as well give them a shot, so he jumped on the floor and got to it. Laying over on his back, he laid flat on the floor and pulled his legs up towards his body so his knees bent until his shins were vertical. Just like the video said, he drove his heels into the ground and thrust his hips up towards the sky until the hips were fully extended. In this position, he then performed isometric leg curls. Isometric meaning the muscle doesn't actually move the body. To do this, he pretended as if he was trying to drag his body along the floor while still pushing his hips up. Woo! He really felt these. He then tried to do a single-leg glute bridge. This is basically the same exercise, but you support your body with just one leg. Other than that, everything is the same. Alex attempted to do one, but they were really difficult to do. No worries, those can just be a goal to train for, so he'd try again when he was stronger. Next, he wanted to try a staggered stance Romanian deadlift. These are Romanian deadlifts performed by placing one foot in front of the other. Not only will this shift a higher percentage of his body weight to the forward foot, it also creates a tighter stretch in the hamstrings and glutes. Since Alex doesn't have access to weights, this version will be great. Standing with one foot flat on the ground, Alex then took his other foot and placed the toe just behind the heel of the forward foot. Next, he pushed the hips back slightly and lowered his torso. It's important that Alex keeps his shoulder blades pulled back as he goes down. He saw this point made several times. The main objective is not to get your hands as low as possible. You want tension to build up in your hamstrings and glutes. Therefore, he knew not to bend his knees more just to get lower. He lowered his body down until his hands were about midway down his shins. This is where his form started to break. As he came back up, he concentrated on flexing his glutes and driving his hips forward. Wow. He just did 3 postural stretches and 8 strengthening exercises. He can't say he was perfectly fixed, but he sure felt good and a bit looser, at least for the moment. Alex began his posture training religiously. During this time, he started seeing amazing results. First off, his posture began to improve, and Alex still saw benefits aside from improving his posture. He noticed that his achy back began to feel much better, until eventually there was no discomfort at all. He would normally need to turn to over-the-counter pain relievers when he was having bad days, but he had always known those simply masked the problem rather than fix it. He just wasn't sure what else to do until now. Well, studies have found that performing strengthening exercises for postural correction can have a better effect at improving pain. And Alex was proof. He no longer needed to go to the pharmacy anymore. He just needed to follow his program. At the same time, something unexpected began to happen. He gradually found himself to just be happier. He never really thought of himself as being negative, but as his posture improved, he definitely began to notice that he was building confidence and seemed to be more positive. He then remembered the studies he saw when he first began. Research has found that improving one's posture can have a profound effect on one's self-esteem and general mood. At the same time, it has been found to improve general fatigue brought about by depression. In fact, you can try these right now. Stand up tall with Alex, chin up and shoulders pulled back. Doesn't that feel great? Now imagine feeling like that all the time, every day. Sounds good? Then be sure to follow these posture improvement workouts. Oh, one more thing first. Check out this new pic of Alex, standing tall at 6 feet. Posture stretches. Band shoulder dislocates, 10 to 15 reps. Cobra pose, 5 to 10 reps with 3 to 5 second pause at top. Thoracic rotation, 10 to 15 reps per side with 2 to 3 second pause at top. Posture strengthening workout. Wall slides, 10 to 15 reps. Seated rows, 10 to 15 reps. Band pull-aparts, 10 to 15 reps. Face pulls, 10 to 15 reps. Planks, 30 seconds. Hollow hold, 10 seconds. Glute bridge, 10 to 15 reps. Staggered Romanian deadlift, 10 to 15 reps per side. Repeat for 2 to 4 sets each.